Hello! You might not have been expecting this video so soon, but I said I was going to be more consistent with these. Yeah. Anyways, being alone in games can add a lot to the experience. Whether that's no life around the player at all, no intelligent life, or even just one or two people around them, just having the player alone can have a huge effect on atmosphere, story, and even gameplay. There's a lot of games that have the player alone for at least some amount of time, so we're going to go over a few different examples. Okay, Prey. It's time to talk about Prey. I said I was going to do this in the last video. It's time to talk about Prey. Mild spoiler warning, skip to this timestamp to skip this part. So with Prey, once the aliens break loose, pretty much everyone on the space station is dead. The first NPC you meet after the outbreak is a robot codenamed January, and it's one of the few NPCs that act as a representation of the game's silent protagonist, Morgan Yu. January is the main one because unless you personally destroy it, it'll be guiding you through the whole game. The second one is your brother Alex. Even though technically you meet him first, once January shows up, there's already pretty good evidence that Alex has been lying to you. January convinces you that the only person you can trust is yourself, and in that case, since January is a copy of your personality, you can only trust January. But as the game goes on and you learn more about the people who were on the station and even find some who are still alive, you also learn about Morgan himself, and you find out about two other operators with your personality put into them, and all of their goals completely conflict with each other. So if you don't help the other survivors on the station, you end up with no one but January and a fragmented sense of self. But if you trust Alex and the other survivors, you can rediscover Morgan's full identity. But what about a game where there are no other survivors? Subnautica is a great example of a game where you're alone. Again, spoiler warning, here's the timestamp if you care. Early on in the game, after you repair your escape pod a little bit, you start getting messages from the other escape pods that launch from the ship. Once you get to their coordinates, all of the life pods are sunk and destroyed with no signs of life. Later on, you get messages from a ship that's passing by offering to come pick you up. They give you coordinates to an island with a giant gun on it, and since you can't warn them about it, they get blown up as soon as they arrive. After that, there's pretty much no more interaction until the end of the game. Subnautica makes all the NPCs feel just barely out of reach, and it feels like if you got to all the escape pods just a little bit sooner, you might have been able to help them, which drives you to explore a lot, especially early on in the game. Prey does this a lot too with all the audio recordings left around, but some of them actually point you towards people who you can meet in person. But what about a game where you get absolutely nothing in terms of human interaction? Iron Lung. Okay, Iron Lung. So Iron Lung is a pretty cool game. I'm excited for the Markiplier movie. That's probably going to be pretty cool. I like Markiplier. There's not a lot I think I can actually say about Iron Lung. The game has been torn apart over the past year or two, and the only new thing that I think I can add is that I personally think that the game is a little bit overrated. There's a lot of people who say it's like the scariest video game of all time, and this is real horror, but I don't know. I just don't really see it. All the lore and world building is spoon-fed to you in plain text, and it really isn't that interesting, and the gameplay is practically non-existent. It's a really cool game with great atmosphere and an interesting concept, but I don't think it's that groundbreaking. And if you disagree, leave a comment, because I would love to talk about this. Anyways, enough criticism, analysis time. So, being alone in Iron Lung. I'm going to ignore the voice lines that play in the very beginning because this game has the least human interaction of any game I could find. The overall atmosphere is pretty much the main selling point of this game, and the fact that you don't have any outside communication is a major part of that eerie atmosphere. Without anyone telling you what to do, all you have is a slow, unreliable ship and a really bad camera. The game is pretty slow in terms of pacing, but that isn't really a problem since the unreliable equipment and lack of instructions can make the player more hesitant to progress. So, in conclusion, the lack of human interaction in games can have major effects on the narrative, like in Prey, where the things people left behind help to build the world, gameplay, like how in Subnautica, where the desire to find people to interact with drives the player to explore, and atmosphere, like in Iron Lung, where it adds to the unreliability of the whole situation. It was pretty much impossible for me to find a game that truly have no one you can interact with, so if you have any cool examples of a game like that, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed.